Hey everyone, welcome to the Biz and Tech Show. I'm Ahuva Fischer and I work on biz health and operations. And today I'm interviewing Sammy Morhaime, who is going to tell us all about status and marketing and so you'll hear what that means. Sammy, my biggest question is how did you actually get so interested in status advertising?
How did I get interested in status advertising? First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be with you, and
So
you've already given me lots of great advice. So how did I get involved with status marketing? So, like all of us, the addiction to our phones increased, year after year, um, and I had to work with social media for businesses, and I noticed that it can be quite draining to be involved with social media. Um, and I actually took a break for a while. I got off Instagram. And then as time progressed, you started seeing that WhatsApp became the main medium for communication. People weren't even using regular phone calls, like unless you're like iPhone users, but using like the Apple to Apple iPhone calling.
I
But
was
people were
just
using
trying to
WhatsApp.
explain to my kids the difference. Like, what's the difference if you're calling by phone or calling on WhatsApp? And I
Right.
couldn't explain the technology because they're becoming also more and more similar.
Right,
It's not
no,
like a
right, but
phone
I
anymore.
think as we were younger, right? So Wi-Fi you paid per minute for the internet, and then since internet became so cheap, and that's kind of where everyone moved over to. So
Yeah.
what so was and it wasn't just because of the phone calls, because which we'll discuss a little bit, everything became everything was in one place. So you used to have a calling app and a messaging app. Now you got it all in the same place. So that kind of and other calling applications have now evolved to do that. They want to do everything because they know if we can get everybody in one place, the one-stop shop for communication, that's what's gonna work really, really well. So
And that's what hooks us in as well.
pardon.
That's what hooks us in. That's the addictive part.
That's the addictive part. So, initially it was just the WhatsApp messenger, right, and the calls that could be made, and then they started to introduce this thing called the status, which I think it took people like time to even know it existed. Like they didn't even know what it was, and then you started seeing like these green circles on people's profile images, and people like what they're sharing, etc. And more it started to become a part of our daily habits, because what WhatsApp did was it knew that we were already on that platform. You know, primarily it was the majority of our day on our phone was on that platform. So they knew then, okay, if that's where we are, then let's use an opportunity to add a social media element to the platform, and that's really what the status was. And Jewish people, especially Orthodox and religious Jews, were not all happy and confident being on Instagram and Facebook and all those other things. I mean, maybe they were secretly, but they didn't feel like that's publicly where they wanted to be. And then all of a sudden, WhatsApp, which is where everybody was, gave them this opportunity to share, what they're doing. Or are you traveling from New York to Baltimore? I need someone to help me deliver something, right? And people realized, you know what? People really are watching because I'm getting a response. Yeah, I'm going tomorrow to Baltimore. I can take it for you. I can take this package. So the fact is, people really are watching in that space. And I
And connected.
realized that, yeah,
Watching
because
and
you're watching and connecting in that space. And I realized that you can put whatever you want up there, but obviously useful information is going to be seen. It's going to be seen because people are already there, addicted. Now, I noticed that people started posting flyers and information about their businesses, and also videos. And I noticed again the habits changing. That how many times people posted a status. Would I be really interested in posting and tapping on each of those posts, or I said just to get rid of the green circle. Like I just want to get rid of that green circle. It's annoying me. Um, and I noticed that if you were an influencer or a personality that's like an influencer, and you're funny, or you've got something really or political, so people will stop and watch a video. But if you're not one of those types of people, they don't really stop and watch a video. People haven't got the time for that, right? You've got to kind of respect people's time when you're posting. Do they really want to watch through that? So again, only if you are an influencer and you are interesting and engaging, people will give you that time. Otherwise, they're not. At the same time, you want to make sure people know about what you're doing. So is it a personal social media status, or is it a business one? So it's either or both. So an influencer, it tends to be both, because an influencer is using it as their business, right? It's their personal story, but at the same time, they kind of dropping in business, etc. And then there's people who just put on their personal stories, and that I think is kind of less and less, because that's more like a Facebook and Instagram type of feel, and people don't feel they want to share their whole life on there. So then what you're left with is sharing business and convenience. If I need some help with something, that's what it tends to be. People use their status for. So I realized that when people are sharing their businesses, they are literally throwing their entire business in a status. They're putting up a flyer and has everything on it, because they feel like, I've got this one opportunity that they can look at my status. I need to throw everything at them. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to do that. If I happen to be interested, so yeah, I might zoom in, and I think we still do that. If there's something interesting, I might zoom in and look at different areas of that post. But
now you're looking at it more closely because you come from marketing, right? Can you just go into that for a minute so people know what the background is? Because you're really tuning into details now.
Sorry.
What's your
Okay.
marketing background?
So what we're doing is we're sitting on our couch and we are like just flicking through statuses and looking at what people are posting. And when a business will market, let's do an example. Let's say the business is
No, I'm saying not even that. Just give us 2 lines on what you do on your day to day, why this became interesting to you. Right? You run an agency. Tell us about it just in like a few seconds.
So what do I do as an agency? So I basically create posts that are more matim in Hebrew, so it's more appropriate for posting on a WhatsApp status. Okay, so that's what I do. So I will set you up with regular posts that will come to you every single week, at least once or twice a week, that are highlighting a key element of your business. And the reason why I started doing that was because people were posting flyers with every aspect on their business that really consumers can't really look at. They don't have the time and patience to look at unless it's something specifically interesting for them at that specific moment. So what I'm doing is I'm creating posts that are very much tuning into an aspect of a business that might excite somebody within that 1 or 2 seconds that they've got looking at your particular post. Does that clarify what
that's
I'm
your
doing?
status part? Are you only doing status marketing? Then we'll jump back to the topic we were speaking about. I know we went a bit on a tangent. Are you doing any other marketing?
So the other part of what I do is I create content and manage people's socials. So that's like, like the LinkedIn or Instagram, for both non-profits and for-profits. And again, the way that I do the marketing is much more about what I call heartbeat marketing. I'm like making sure
that more. I just want to give that context. So Sam, you're coming really from, you run a marketing agency and you're watching everyone's statuses and you're like, they have this amazing platform, but they're misusing it. They're putting on these flyers that have tons of information, and you need to literally like zoom in to see what's there, and not everyone has big screens. And where did you go from that?
So where'd I go from that? So what we did was I reached out to numerous, a variety of different businesses. So, opticians, dentists, bakers, lawyers, real estate people. And I said to them, would it interest you to have a flyer like this? And I gave an example that would come to you every single week that promotes your business. And it's literally really simple. Your logo, your brand, a small statement, and like a call to action, like either book an appointment or call us today. And it would be varied every single week. But the key, showing up meant logo, call to action, a picture that supports what you do. That's really basically what it was. And they said, you know what, let's give it a try. So I had literally, I think, 15 different types of businesses, or 12 different types of businesses that were using it week in, week out. And had them saying to me, it's so funny. People said they saw my status. I didn't even realize people looked at my status. That's what they said to me, Richard. Wow. I didn't even realize. And there's some other feedback was, and I think this is important to clarify for your audience, is they said, my customers aren't really on status. They're really on like LinkedIn. That's where my customers really are. And the question you really have to ask yourself is, what do you mean your customers or your clients are there? Your customers and clients are anywhere, right? Anyone's your customer or your client potentially, right? So you can't say they are only there, because if people are using WhatsApp day to day, they are looking at their WhatsApp day to day. That's it. So every time you have a meeting with someone, let's say I met with this real estate guy, I saved his number, he saved my number, he's in my contacts, right? And he now sees me pushing out information now, and I haven't made a deal with him yet, but he knows what I'm doing, and the more I kind of build my contact list, the more I'm going to have real people who I've actually had a physical conversation with, who I really have a much more significant relationship with than some
Right.
random
So these are
person I'm
people
reaching
that
out to.
trust you already, right? The people that are seeing our status are people that trust us, you as professionals. They know you have some kind of contact, and they're your immediate circle. That trust is what's going to build new relationships.
And those people, we think that they're necessarily the end client, the client. They're not. They become your promoter for your product.
So it's
Right?
like a ripple effect.
It's a ripple effect, because it's what you're doing is, if you show up every other day, or some people are doing it every day, even once a week, you show up every single week. You come around a Shabbos table, or anywhere, in a wedding or an event, and people say, "Oh yeah, you're that guy who does that thing, right?" How do they know that? Because you're showing up all the time on WhatsApp. And then they start talking to you. It's so interesting. I met somebody last week who's not in my contact list, right? I met somebody last week that would be really good for him, but because you've got trusted, relationships that will promote you outside of the WhatsApp, because they've got their own contact lists, right?
They're your advocates.
They're your advocates for what you're promoting. So the challenge is always, when you're working with businesses, is what's the ROI? I want to see like the stats. I want to see the proof that, and with marketing, it's not always easy to tell, right? Even if you get, lots and lots of views, how do you know which ones convert? And, I'll tell my wife as an optician, every time you get a customer, ask them, how do you hear about us, right? People always want to ask, like, wait, how do you hear about us? And she's starting more and more now to say, it's so funny. They said they saw my status, or like my friends saw, my mother saw the status. She told me about you. Like, you've gotten you.
Wow.
It's just and she doesn't know. Again, she only if she asks them do they tell you. People don't always tell you why they decided to call you. You have to
So it's
kind of ask
important
them.
if you're on top of your marketing to really ask people to get that real information, because especially with WhatsApp, you have very little statistics.
Correct. I mean, yeah, you do have like views, but I think what people,
you don't have replies, you like can't
right,
really measure.
right. But I want people to think a little bit differently about their status. So maybe I'll educate them a little bit. When you see, let's say you get 100, 200 views on your post, right? Those aren't usually repeat posts as well. Those aren't repeat views. Those are actual contact views, and those are ones people who have allowed you to be viewed. You have the blue ticks versus the non-blue ticks, right? So the blue ticks shows a red message, and some people can turn that off if they want to have a bit more privacy. So people who turn off, you can't tell if they viewed your status as well. You don't know.
So you would know the percentages of that?
So you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know those, because I've got over 1,000 people in my contact list on WhatsApp, right? But I'm getting like 100 or 200 views, 300 views, depending on the week, right? But I want to explain to them, though, again, those 150 views of that post is not limited to them. I'm just going to keep it simple. It is them, their families, their friends. It really is much more than that, right? That is really what it is, right? And especially with Jewish businesses, where we historically use our network and our families to, again, let's use the example of a dentist. If you've got one family deciding to join a dentist, you're talking about, at least 4 clients, the kids and the grandparents, and then it's not one client, right? You've got to think of it broader than that. And real estate, let's say, it's a husband or a wife who's more interested, but they're showing it with their husband or wife who's not necessarily in a contact list. It's much more than that one view. And
Right.
I think that's really, really important for people to realize that.
I think I tell my clients all the time, and I don't specialize in marketing with them, but I always tell them, your status views are people that know you and trust you. So that view is worth much more than 100 views on LinkedIn of people just scrolling past. Right? These are people that know you, trust you, remember you, and they want to advocate for you. You just have to remind them. But you need good statuses, like you tell us about.
Right. So we can move into that if that makes sense.
So I want to ask you before that.
Sure.
You start saying like status is this, and people don't do the same as like you were saying, like Facebook and Instagram are totally different. I think a lot of businesses do reuse their content from Instagram into WhatsApp. So could you explain the difference?
Okay, so even if you go on to, Canva or any AI tool now, when they're generating images, right, you'll see that they have sizing differences, right? The sizing differences subliminally are important for each platform. Okay, so when you go into Facebook or LinkedIn, there's a particularly slightly more square, sometimes more wide kind of post, right? And that's quite deliberate because it's where the eyes are traveling when you're watching watching that particular social media post. Okay, that's where your eyes are traveling. So they'll say, resize this for an Instagram post, resize this for a a Facebook post. And when you're doing so what do some people like to do? They'll create one square post and they'll reuse it, right, on all the different platforms that they're on. And they'll say, look, what's the point of changing the format? It does the same thing. And the truth is, I think we underestimate the way that our eyes interact with um, with
The screen.
every screen and anything that goes around us. I'll give you an example. There's a lot of um, education and marketing around where your eyes travel. So, for example, let's say you have at the top your headline, right? It's big writing, so your eyes are going to go there first, right? And then you have maybe an image. And then at the bottom, you have a call to action. That's really what you want people to do. Okay. You're going to kind of bring their eyes somewhere. Now, you can do it different ways. You can also have like a massive image that's like a shocking image. And then you can have like small print and it's directing you to go from image. What's that small print over there? Like you're literally training the eyes to go in a particular place. And that's what makes things memorable or not memorable, which is why when people post content on advertising, right, it tends to be very minimal. Real advertising is very, very minimal because they know they've got you for a very small amount of time and they kind of want to take your eyes on a journey. Your eyes are going on a teal every single time you're looking at something. So when it comes to WhatsApp, you kind of have to align yourself with the way that people like to view the content. So if it is in this sort of 9:16 space, what's the best way to use that space where people are going to get your business straight away, right? So, I think, like, for example, there's an advertising agency in the area that I live in, and they regurgitate a lot of the material which they have on their magazine, and it's like jumping between like a big a
So
square
different.
it's constantly, and it's actually, I find look, not everyone's like me, but it can become overwhelming. Now, at the end of the day, people will say to you, well, subliminally, you understood the message. I remember seeing something somewhere. That's true. But the question is, when it comes to subliminal, messaging, do you want the message to be really clear or just a little bit clear? That's also going to impact your brain and your
Different.
memory. How does it make you feel when you saw the information is going to also affect the memory of that information, right?
So
There's a
the
lot
format
going into
is
that.
very important. The format is very important and where you lay things out, and it's very different from media to media. How about like content wise? You mentioned that people share more personal on other social media platforms. What's the content difference like?
Okay, so when it comes to, so use like LinkedIn for example, okay, so it does seem to be, as time's gone on, that
It's
people
like
really
yeah.
they are it's kind of starting to, there's lots of overlap, and the reason for that is, I believe, is because people really like reality. Even there's a lot of AI, people like reality, like realness. They like a story. It's like something really, really, something they can relate to and connect to. So when people are now posting on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram for business purposes, you'll see the successful ones are usually personal accounts versus a business account. It's somebody
Right.
who's a successful, a businessman, he or she, they're traveling on a train and they're taking a picture of, catching up to work while traveling to London, right? And so what people are getting in that one screenshot, right? I'm busy. I'm traveling to, new destinations, right? You're a part of my journey, right?
Mhm.
There's so much being literally a picture's 1,000 words. There's so much going into that people realize, that it's much more valuable than putting a flyer and telling people what I do, right? That's much more valuable to people because they feel like, oh, I know you. It's not about your
Yeah.
business. I know you. So yes, people will have a business Facebook, a business Instagram, a business a LinkedIn page, right? But those are usually pages that people might go to after they've seen the person who works for that company, right? They first will know,
More
like,
secondary.
yeah. Unless obviously, let's say you said to me, or Sammy, I want you to check out that company. So of course I'll go to that company page first. But often the discovery comes from people and their stories and but so platform to platform, it's different. I think the main difference between WhatsApp and those other platforms is the fact that the WhatsApp is a community. It's much more feeling of a closer community. It's like it's more like concentric circles, family, cousins, friends, Beit Shemesh, where I live,
Yeah.
Israel, Jewish people. So that's the kind of, so when you come to WhatsApp, so you're going to see, like, you might go like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, because WhatsApp is this one of, which we've said already, is this sort of communal, trustworthy feeling, um, which is why I believe it's like the future of marketing.
So the future's really here, and the real connections and the real relationships.
Yeah, correct.
Our business is overlooking it.
I would say yes. I think, as I say, I think people tend to like zoom out and are sometimes, what's the word? They are, we're creatures of habit and we're creatures of society, and society says LinkedIn is a business platform, right? So therefore, I'm going to put only on LinkedIn because that's where my clients are. I think you spread your net as far as possible and make sure that all those concentric circles are catered for, so that no matter where where you're posting, people know who you are in all those different circles. And I don't know if people, as we said before, because people who are very business minded are focused on the ROI. They're very focused on the ROI. They'll be like, what's the point of putting time into this if I can't see any real results? And how do I track it? And how do I? But I think that's it. I think it's not the best way of wording this. I think we're just repeating ourselves. It's the place of relationship. It's the place of trust. And you want people to promote you further, then do it in a place of people who care and really care and love you. Right? That's the place to do it.
Not everyone feels comfortable. You just mentioned that some people are like more influencer style. You mean like they have like a personality, or they're famous? What makes someone an influencer style?
I'd say it's a personality. It's a personality. Somebody who doesn't mind, speaking in public. Someone doesn't mind, taking risks that they've seen somewhere that people are going to comment. They don't care so much about people going to say. Those are, very often, people who are into drama or acting. I was a teacher, right? And I used to call myself an edutainer as opposed to an educator, because
Love
because I enjoy performance, I enjoy drama, I enjoy being a chazan in a shul. That's what I like to do. I like to present. So for me to go on my camera, I'm just not bothered, because I like an audience. Right, so that's a certain personality where they like an audience. So those people, much easier for them to be an influencer. They didn't actually have to speak. He didn't just be their face by eating an ice cream somewhere. Some people, yes, they don't feel comfortable doing that.
The
But
people that are not
yeah.
comfortable doing that, should they be pushing themselves to do that, or should they be putting out other kinds of content?
So if you want you can never make someone do anything, right? But reality is that people relate to people. That's what they do. And if I was having a business meeting, I would still have a business meeting with somebody one-on-one personally, right? I'm still seeing them in their face and they're relating to them, right? And I think that, to have a profile shot, even just a profile shot of yourself that puts a face to a business, most people should be okay with that. They're going to put that on their website, that these are the people who work at my company. They don't have to necessarily talk, but at least they can relate the business to a particular person. I do think that is worthwhile.
So if someone's not comfortable taking videos of themselves, they should at least start small and have a personal profile picture, not like their logo or.
I can't. I'm not going to force anybody to do anything, but I think it does.
What's
make
your
a difference.
advice, right? People are listening to this for advice.
I would advise, if you are okay with having a profile shot of yourself on some of your posts, I would recommend it, because they're relating you to. It's our faces are what people trust. They look at some people are better than others at judging people, but you can't judge anything until you sort of meet the person in the flesh. That's really important. So I would recommend, like, some people might have a psychological issue with that, like where they look. And then we're not talking about those type of people. If you really just just get a profile picture and put it on that. I don't think you're gonna lose your
So you
credibility
take
as a
a
human
picture
being.
of yourself and use that as the background for a post, you mean?
Every now and then on a post or introducing yourself. So let's say the company is called, let's call it a status agency. There's a picture of Sammy on the side. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I mean, that's what it's saying. I'm the CEO of my company, and that's what it is. And I'm a human, and I'm not standing there like this, like I'm sort of like I'm putting you off. I'm like I'm a human being. I'm just
It
people.
feels like personal, relatable.
I, yeah, and I think this is something I mentioned to you the last time we spoke. The concept called KISS, which people use. They say keep it simple, stupid. Right, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. But I changed that to keep it simple, Sherlock, because Sherlock Holmes was an incredible character who's so brilliant, but he's so brilliant sometimes he overcomplicated things. Right, so keep it
Mm.
simple, not stupid. You're not stupid. You might be absolutely brilliant, but because of your brilliance, you're sort of losing the forest for the trees, sort of thing. You need to be able to, just keep things very, very simple. People just need to see one message, one. I've got a bit of a pet peeve at the moment because I scan statuses and I just see people's flyers and I just quickly write a message to say, please just mention one thing and just put your logo on. Just do that. I want you to be successful with your business. Don't People are gonna just they're not gonna remember you. They're just not gonna remember you. Please just change it.
Because
Um,
there's too much on it.
it's too much. It's just too much for people to see and to take in.
So if I'm,
And
let's say, a business owner, or our listeners are business owners, until today they took their flyer that they put in their local advert, and every week they put it on their status. And people are looking at it. So they know people are paying attention, but they want to get better. Now they're like, okay, there's potential. How do they tap into it?
Okay, so what you do is your flyer is actually an amazing place to start, and you can use AI tools to help you with this. And you kind of just ask AI to pick up one of those services or features and create a post based on that one feature with a supporting image. That's it. So that so
So
this
like,
this
here's
given
my flyer. Choose one concept from it, or they could use your tool. Could you tell us about your tool?
so this is where it comes in. I actually had this yesterday. Somebody asked me. I commented on their flyer and they said, thank you so much for your support. I said, well, I actually help people build this out. And they said, well, what do you do? And I explained what I do, and I gave them my fee, right? Which I talked about after. So once I gave them my fee, they didn't respond straight away because they're like, oh gosh, I have to put money down. And they made a few changes to their flyer and they put it
Mm.
up there again. Okay, so okay, great. Listen to my advice, put the flyer. It was still overwhelming. They didn't do anything. And this is where the challenge comes in. Are you going to create posts every single week consistently after the flyer you just put up? Or are you just going to put up the same flyer every single week? I'm just asking you as a human being, would you do that? You're not a marketer. You're an architect. You're a dentist. Your focus is that's your focus. Are you going to every week put something that represents your business? You're not. You're just
Probably
seeing
not.
everybody. You're just not. You're just seeing everybody else is posting on the status. I really should do it. So you post something. So what do? You go into AI. You quickly type it in there. You throw in your website. Okay, great. Okay, and you put it out there. But it's not looking. First of all, it doesn't look professional, right? It's very samey, right? It doesn't. After a time, people are going to get bored of these AI things, these AI posts. They're going to find them. They're just going to
After
find.
time, we're there already.
I think we're here already. But yes, with the AI tools, we can create things that are much more professional and meaningful. And how do I do that? So because I'm a content creator, what I've done over time is I've fed my AI with all of my creations and my principles, so that when I produce, a flyer poster, it is based on real design. It's not based on just random information that's picked from all over the internet, right? So the same way with AI, if you don't give it enough information, it's just going to create a massive poster. But if you give it a specific piece of information, a very focused piece of information, it will produce something much, much more clear, right? So it's the same. So I'm basically doing the same thing for WhatsApp statuses. I'm taking all your information and making it much, much more clear, and then sharing with you every single week a post that's going to highlight your business in a very clear, succinct fashion. That's what I can do for you every single week.
So if people sign up to your service, they give you their information and you create a sequence that's the same design language, similar messaging, but every week it's one targeted message with call to action.
Is it worthwhile sharing a screen or not to show an example of that?
Yeah, do it.
Should we just do it? Okay, so let's just try and share the screen here. Continue to share screen. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Just let me know if you can see my screen. I'm sharing my screen with you now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so then I'm going to go into my photos. Okay, that's me, the status agency. Let's just find an example of that particular post where we've got. So this is a guy here that I was working with. He's called. He's getting free advertising here. Okay, so this is his flyer of who he is, and this is what I produced for him with my design principles. Okay, it looks pretty professional. And then what we're going to do is we can then take that same one and then do posts like this.
Oh, so you right away identify that it's the same business because you have
the same business.
Colors.
It's consistent, okay. And then we have an image that supports, the writing, okay. But we have various different, aspects of that. And there's another business over here. This one is again for WhatsApp. Okay, they do branding. Can you see how there's not so much writing going on here, right? This is literally very clean, crisp, and then we can repeat. We did different sizes, but this is like another one. But it's consistent. There's a certain consistency
just
now.
So professional.
Right, and that's because we have built our design principles into our AI. And that's what people are paying for, is the consistency of their brands. It will look consistent each and every week. And then going back to this guy, Maxim Cohen again. So here, I've got his profile picture. Can you see how it looks like more welcoming? You're like meeting the guy for the business right in front of you.
Yeah.
Right?
So he got like good pictures taken.
So he's got, and we've just taken this from websites. People already had their images in their websites. Okay. And again, let's have a conversation. He's looking at you saying, let's have a conversation. It's really delivering a lot of those key features. And that's the kind of posts that we're creating is, I'll give you another one here. This one is a, property one. And again, if you see you've got logo on the top, zoom straight into, the big words, which and then your eyes are started going connected with the property, and then your eyes will eventually go to the small writing if they feel like it's necessary. But we're not overwhelming clients.
With AI, because this doesn't look like AI designs.
Correct. So yes, I am using AI. I'm going to come back to the screen with you. Let's just reconnect to you. Let's stop sharing. Are we back on? Here we go. Let's get my. Okay. Okay, so here we go. So yeah, as I said, it is AI, and we should be using AI tools, but we should be using AI tools in a professional way. So because I'm feeding, there's something called a vertical farming, which is where people take dilapidated buildings and they create basically massive greenhouses, and they are growing like greenhouse plants inside buildings that are on the outskirts of villages. And how do they do this? They kind of plug in environment, like the temperature and the moisture to grow these products. So let's say they want to grow tomatoes, and they want a certain type of tomato with a certain type of color and a certain texture. They have built in with AI, they've built in the code that will communicate to the environment, right? Communicate to the environment what's the most ideal environment that will produce this type of tomato. Okay, and they've spent years developing what's the right type of temperature, what's the right type of moisture, etc. Okay, you can look it up on YouTube. This is called vertical farming, and I think the long-term plan of vertical farming is that people don't have to go out into the fields, just only to the fields to get food. That either there'll be things on the outskirts of cities and towns where they'll be growing certain vegetation that will be able to be easily transported, so you're saving on green. It's interesting. But again, so why am I bringing that? Is because what they've done is they've accumulated data from thousands of years of how to grow and farm things, right? And that data they feed into this computer, which then emits the irrigation, whatever it is. So the same idea is here. And then what can they do? They don't just sell the actual produce, is they can actually sell
the technology.
Wow. And they're saying, so then you're saying, you would like to do this greenhouse thing in Sweden, right? And we can sell you the code. This is what it costs. So why are people paying for my service is because they're not paying for my AI. They think, well, I could just do it myself. Yeah, you can, but I've got the experience and background. I've been feeding my AI, my professional, creations over time, so that what I'm producing is going to be significantly better than yours. And that's what you're paying for. And that's
Wow.
why that's how people need to start viewing it. So meaning AI is not just like your Google. AI is a tool to enhance what already exists. Again, the key is what already exists. If you're throwing things in there, it doesn't already exist. That's why your AI knows specific things about you, is because it keeps on focusing on what you are doing. So if
I
you
want to
are a
pinpoint for a second to everyone
yeah,
listening because I spoke to a few people just this week in the same industry that you're in the creatives, in the marketing, and they're like, they know AI is not doing what they could do, but they're also feel like they might be losing their customers. It feels like a real like fork in the road for many people. And what you're doing here, Sammy, is I think a real message for
synthesis.
anyone in the space, right? Like, really, guys, learn from Sammy, see what he's done here. Literally, you don't know how many people just this week, like so many business owners that I've spoken to, they're like, what's going to happen? Do what Sammy did. Use AI to enhance what you've been doing. We spoke about this in the last episode with Sarah Goshberg. She also said, use AI to multiply you. And here's a real marketing example, because we spoke about other examples of how you can do that. So go check out Sammy's services and learn from him. Don't copy, because then you're missing the point, right? You want to do what you do, but more and better. That's
Oopsie. I got off the screen a second. Carry on. Probably like an interesting spot to just lose my screen, but anyway.
it's okay. We got trim for that. Wow, that is very powerful. And back to this. So let's say I'm a business owner and I'm creating these flyers with you. What are other things I need to remember and know about?
So if you're creating it with me, you don't have to think about it because I'm going to be doing it for you,
You're
right?
doing it.
And actually, so I want to feed off your point. I have been thinking about my future in this space, and one of the things I'm trying to do is to try and build. I'm actually in the middle of doing this. I'm building an app that will, using AI to feed all my previous creations, that actually becomes more autonomous, an autonomous system where people will be able to create their own posts with my creation, my data, etc. Right? The idea is that I could bring down my costs, because if people will be happy with the type of level of the posts are, then they can just press generate on their own, and it will then send them to WhatsApp every single week without me being involved. The part of the challenge of this process is that people are like, I don't want to have to go back and forth with the guy with the design. I just, that's why I want to go into AI. I'll make my post and I'll just throw it up there. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create an autonomous system where people pay a subscription and literally just, they'll get a message in their WhatsApp. It'll say, click here. It takes them into a screen and it says, right, we've already learned about all your business because you've given us your logo and your website and everything else like we do now. And because I put in my principles, I'll press generate. It will then generate 4 posts based on my principles and your information. And you can actually keep generating as many times as you like till you're happy. And you press lock in. And when it locks in, then every single week you'll receive a post based on your lock in. And then the next month you'll receive the message again. Would you like us to, generate your posts? Ta-da, lock in, and then it will
So
just.
what happens now? You're describing a sequence where from A to Z, it's all automated based on the information that you gave it, right?
Yeah.
All that historical data. What happens now, though? Which part of that is manual?
So the manual part at the moment now is I'm still quite involved with the design, and there's actually a whole process where we send people a preview. Okay, we send them a preview for them to like or modify. They get one
So you're really
modification.
going over everything still. Like if people do this through you, they're really also getting your expertise in it, not
So
just through the
100%. So what they're going to get is, so let's say, so the beginning of the month, they'll get 4 posts that are a preview. It's a WhatsApp message that say your previews are ready. They tap on it and it takes them to a beautiful screen. It's also an application, take them to a screen, and it gives them like 4 different boxes, and it gives you like an opportunity to check the box if you're happy, or just to write one little comment, oh, you spelt the website wrong, or change the image. They press submit and they send it back to me. I then make those changes. Once those changes are made, I then hit my button and send it out to them on an automation. It'll go
And
every
these
week.
posts are theirs now. Like they could use that.
Yeah, they're theirs, and they can reuse them. So people said to me, well, if you created me a month's worth of posts, why do I have to keep on getting new ones? I can just reuse them every single week. So I said, you can if you want. I said, but I think the culture of people nowadays is because once they've seen a post, they kind of like, I saw it already. Doesn't, again, we speak about, the eyes going on a journey. They've seen it already, so they don't have the same level of, absorption. when it's
You're
an
not
old
observing.
post. Yeah, yeah. So what we're trying to do is kind of help people with that by making sure there's fresh, fresh content that's slightly different, but maintaining this, the things that need to be the same. Again, your branding, and your call to action, and your phone number. That's going to stay the same, but everything
And then
else
they post this once a week.
minimally, right?
Oh, you think
So
you could post the same one more than once a
look,
week, or
so the way this works is that they'll get a message. It tends to be on a Monday, every Monday. They'll get a message saying, hi, good morning, your post is ready to, it's ready. Now, it's very important, people don't know this, that in general, you cannot post to somebody else's status directly as a third party, right? People have to do it themselves, right? So what we do is we just send them that reminder message from a professional,
you
company.
can't post it for them the way you would do like on
Yeah,
Instagram.
yeah, correct.
That's
As
a
it
big
stands,
difference.
right? It's a big
Yeah.
difference, and maybe that will change. That's the way Meta set it up. I think you can have like a business company has 5 people, but I think the actual status part of it, you cannot have managers in the status part
Right.
of it.
Right.
Okay, so how do we best get around that to remind you to post? Because you'll get a ping in your WhatsApp. It's not going somewhere else. In your WhatsApp saying your post is ready, and it's a natural image, and all you need to do is press forward, and it goes to your status. And there'll be different
Amazing.
levels. There'll be
Yeah.
different
Amazing.
levels of there'll be different levels of with the new app when it comes out. There'll be a choice of either you pay this for 1 post a week or this for 2 posts a week or whatever. It's so it needs to come a
So then
Monday
you
and a
get more
Wednesday.
posts.
Yeah.
What happens between these posts? So people are putting up a flyer once or twice a week. What about in between? About keeping that relationship and feeding it?
Absolutely. So again, I think this comes down to personality. Again, some people are just like posting, and they will, and they should, and post in between. I think if you're on my status tips group, which you can post and share with other
So that's
people.
what I was going to ask you about. You're saying the other day about how to like find content everywhere.
Yeah, so it could be just if you don't want to take a picture of yourself, you can take a picture of your computer screen, or you can take a picture of a coffee that you're having. It doesn't have to be you, and just say, sitting down with a coffee, um, you know, thinking about my next customers. Da, da, da. It's just sharing your life if you want to do that. If you don't want to do that, it's okay not to post every single day. It's not. It's still okay. And some people might say, the fact that I don't post every single day allows people to sort of get a breather between my content, and it's a bit more exciting. I've
So it's
recently, yeah, though, what I didn't mention, and I think it's super important, and I don't know why I didn't mention this because it helps with those people who are more shy, more social media shy. This is huge, and I try to tell my customers about this. Is having a mascot.
having a
Okay,
what?
a mascot. In England we call it a mascot. Like having a character that's not you that represents your
Mm.
business, right? Um, so Coca-Cola has Santa Claus, sorry, right? And people use like Bugs Bunny, or they use different characters, right? Every soccer team, every football, basketball team has a character. And the idea is that when they see that character, that's also memory. So we have at the status agency, I've got myself, but I also have a character that looks like a spy, like an agent. And whenever they see that agent, they're going to be reminded of the status agency. So if you are somebody who's shy,
Is that like
you
Sherlock, or is that
maybe it was based on Sherlock Holmes, I don't know. But the idea is that if you have a character that's memorable as well, people will remember your business, right?
so
That's
that's the
really.
way you don't use your face, or
So
in
you
addition?
can create an avatar of yourself through AI super easily. You can ask it to be like a Disney Pixar type character. You can make it like a puppet. Mine's more like a Muppet type of character, like a puppet type of character. You can make an animal, right? If you want an animal to represent your a business, you could have a pair of sunglasses. It doesn't. It's something that people will remember is related to your business every single time. It's like your logo, but a bit more, right? Is the character that takes you places. And with AI, again, if you want to post in between your posts with AI, you can have that character do anything. You put that character in AI and say, have this character hold up a sign saying, "Good morning," right? And then what the people getting is they're reminding your business, and just the word "good morning." The good morning is irrelevant. Your character's holding the. You don't have to do anything more than that. And then you just post that into your status. Or people do like Shiva Tov, or it's going to be a great week, or whatever it is, with your character, not you. That allows you to sort of hide a little bit and still
Behind
keep
it,
your business in mind. Yeah.
right? Wow. So if someone is starting today and they have zero strategy and they're not ready to to, let's say, sign up to a service, what's something they could start today to jump in?
Okay, so the first thing they should do is probably join our status tip group, because
Right. We'll put a link in.
yeah, I'll put a link in. Just because um, I don't bombard people. It's once, sometimes twice a week, where we give like little tips that people can practically apply, that day, and they'll sort of read it and try it out.
Such good tips. I'm definitely using them.
Thank you. Just, try it, and yeah, I already saw your status. You've got a few fantastic sort of posts now.
I'm trying to get better.
But but I'm also doing the same as you. I'm also learning from other people, right? I'm like, by looking at other people's statuses, say to yourself, which ones are really good. Don't say, oh, that's so. Don't say people. What people do, we get intimidated. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I'm so upset. I can't. Well, say to yourself, wait a second. What did they do? Is that something that I could copy? Obviously, not
That's a good
exactly
message.
the same thing. Like, for example, someone did like sharing the time Shabbat starts and ends with their brand on it. Why
Yeah,
can't you do that?
that's
You know,
easy.
there's nothing. Well, you see somebody else, and again, and today's tip was actually timing. Posts. So if you relationship at the beginning of the week is always usually the time when people are like raring to go, they're about to start. So usually, posting's usually better in the beginning of the week, which is why we do Monday or up to Wednesday, not further than Wednesdays when we share with people. But the different businesses that actually might be better to post something like on like before the weekend, because it's the time when people sit together and they talk about things. So it's
But you
thinking when
actually
you.
said today on your group, just anytime's a good time. Just post.
I did say that, if you read between the lines, there is actually a bit of an art.
Counteracting the point that really there's better times, but if you're not going to focus on this better times, still post.
It's still worth posting, but yeah, like for sure the energy at the beginning of the week is more like, let's get stuff done. I'm looking for things, I'm looking for opportunities. As you get to the end of the week, you time to wind down. But when people are winding down, what do you want to think about as they're winding down? That there's a little bit of psychology
You have to
behind that.
think about your messaging.
Yeah, but again, you're 100% right. If you still post, you still post. Like, you're not there. My
There's a
son,
big
yeah.
emphasis. Yeah, there's a big emphasis in the Jewish world on posting that Saturday night, like Motzi Shabbos, because that's when people scroll a lot. What do you think about that?
Um, there's a lot of truth in that. I think it's an unfortunate truth. I think I once did a post of my character walking. Said Friday afternoon, and my character puts the phone inside the desk, and then I did like Motzei Shabbos, goes back to the desk and pulls his phone out and takes it out. And I think I wrote like "Thank God for Shabbos" or something like that. But it was
But
like that
people saw
moment in
it.
between. Yeah, yeah. But that yeah, the reality is, unfortunately, yes, people do start on a Motzei Shabbos. Again, I don't want to. We don't want to drive ourselves mad. There's always a life balance, and you don't want to become too addicted to all of these things. But as a business, yes, that's when people are looking at
People are
content.
looking, but they're also not making purchases then. So you get like lots of views. But if people don't do a Motzi Shabbos, I always say like it's not like people are going to click an order from you tonight. They're going to do that on
And
Monday.
it's not. And again, I don't think it's always about people seeing if someone's going to order straight away because of that post. It's you're building over time
That's
that
important.
relationship and that feeling. It's not. It doesn't. A doesn't always equal B, right? There's all that step. You're building a relationship. You're maintaining a relationship. That's what you're doing here. And when it
Okay,
comes
so
to a sale, they know who you are. They know what you do. They feel comfortable with you. That's what it is.
Okay, we're going to wrap up. If people are listening to this, business owners especially, and they remember one thing from this conversation, what should that one thing be?
Oof. You're gonna have to cut the bit in between now, because I thought. Well, the one takeaway is, advertise where relationships are most significant. Advertise where relationships are most significant, because people who care about you will promote you.
Wow.
That's that. People who care about you. Yeah, I think my mother always promotes me.
Yes, exactly. Everyone tells me that. Yes, my mother reposts my flyers always. Great. It's a whole new audience.
But yeah, and also, by the way, you can also create a group. But we all create groups in WhatsApp. Create a group of people who love you as well, and put in there a little message saying that I'm going to put some of my posts in here every now and then. If you would love to share them on your status, please do. And then again, you're spreading yourself even further for them, their contacts, right? Without
Like a real call to action. Like, I'm putting this here for you to post.
yeah, and yeah, and again, and I've done it myself. I have 20 people in my group, and I'd say when I do that, it's 10 of them do it almost every time out of the
Oh,
20.
that's very nice.
Right, so that's already another, and they're also in different countries.
Nice,
Got
and it's free.
America, and it's free. And I've had people contact me from those posts that people say, I saw it on your brother's thing, I saw it on your friend's thing, you know.
Nice. I know from England, I think status is also very, very strong there.
Yeah, and I think also in Lakewood. And
It's strong everywhere, but I really see it there a lot. Maybe there's like an awareness, like businesses really invest in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, Sammy, that was such a great conversation. Lots of practical tips on how to really make a difference in your business today without a big investment, without a lot of time, things that really matter, and don't forget to build those relationships and to be forward thinking. And this was such a powerful talk. Thank you so much, Sammy.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.